A Plaguelands Media production.
Hey everybody, this is Hugh from Plaguelands Media bringing you another graphic novel review today, so cheers. Now, the graphic novel I am reviewing is from a franchise that is near and dear to my heart. I grew up watching these cartoons. The original series, I think, ran from 85 to 89. There were about 130 episodes across the multiple seasons. Then they brought it back in 2011, and then they brought it back again in 2020. But it's the original that just captivated me. It was back in the time when your cartoons, your Saturday morning cartoons or after school cartoons, pretty much coincided with the toys that you played with. They were just giant toy commercials. And today I am talking about, well, I'm wearing the appropriate shirt, Thundercats. This is the Dynamite reimagining of the Thundercats, and I believe it ran for 25 issues. This is only issue 1 to 5 in this hardcover graphic novel. But, and this blew my freaking mind, I might add, I just discovered that after the 25 issue run of Thundercats, they're moving into a new story arc, which is Thundercats and Silverhawks. Silverhawks was something that I hadn't thought about in a long, long time, but it was indeed a cartoon that I grew up loving, and I had some of the toys. I had some of the Thundercats toys, not all of them. I believe my first Thundercats toy was Mum-Ra the Ever-Living. But the fact that people love these franchises so much and are bringing them back for a modern audience who is probably not going to really understand or have the nostalgic feel that we had for them, it literally warms my heart. Like, I don't care how bad the Masters of the Universe movie is going to be. I'm going to go see it at the cinema. Probably more than once. Why? I just love the franchise. So, when I initially got my copy of this, and you can see on the front, we have all of the main Thundercats characters. For those of you that don't know, we have Lino, the leader of the Thundercats, Chitara, Tigra, Panthro in the Thunder Tank, Wily Kit and Wily Cat and Snarf, of course. When I first got this, I was kind of skeptical because on the back it says a new take on the legend of the Thundercats. I'm like, a new take? What can you do? Like, where can you go with the story? Now, the basic premise of Thundercats is a group of refugees. Their planet Thundera has exploded. They're on a ship, and they're in stasis. Lino is, of course, the leader of the Thundercats, although in the beginning he's just a small child. He's royalty, basically. And somewhere along the line, Lino's stasis pod gets damaged and he starts to grow up. And they land on what they call the Third Earth, and kind of set up shop there until they work out exactly what is going on. So Lino is effectively a ruler who has the body of an adult male and the mind of a child. And as the cartoon series progressed, he had to learn responsibility and how to grow up and things along those lines. He has the fabled Sword of Omens. This gives him sight beyond sight. He can look through the hilt and see things. He can also use it as a beacon to call the other Thundercats to his position. On Third Earth, there are mutants. These are mutants that plagued them during the time on Thundera, led by Lord Slith. And we have Mumra, the Ever-Living, who is basically a mummy who can kind of grow into a very formidable foe. As a kid, this shit was fucking awesome. And I dare any of you who were raised in the 80s to crap on Thundercats. There were other TV shows, cartoons that were designed to sell toys, like Thundercats. I mean, it's designed to sell toys. You had G.I. Joe, you had Transformers, heck, even GoBots. Thundercats was up there as one of the best. So I had high hopes for this book. And this series did not disappoint. I loved what they did with it. I love the art in this. This thing is illustrated very, very well. It captured the spirit of the 80s cartoon show, but it actually did bring something new to the table, which is what I'm going to get into today. So, I urge you to go out and track this down. If this ever comes out in an omnibus format with all 25 issues, I'm getting it. I absolutely love this. So, it's your choice. If you want it spoiled, however, stick around for the next episode of
Read a fucking book. Read a fucking book. Read a fucking book. People.
So this is Thundercats Volume 1 Omens by Dynamite Comics. Let's just open it up here. Brilliant Thundercats logo. And then we see Lino here doing his Thundercats ho, and everything shoots up. Just awesome. We get the other Thundercats. Chitara, Panthro, Tigra, Wily Kit, and Wily Cat. A bit of an introduction, which I thought was kind of cool. And then we go straight into issue 1. Now, issue 1 basically starts with the destruction of Thundera. And we can see the sort of omens hanging here in the ship. This is the main ship, but all of the other ships are being attacked by the mutants. And Jaga, who is kind of their leader, is piloting their ship to safety, and they arrive on Third Earth. Of course, Jaga is no longer with them. We learn a little bit about what happened, how the stasis field, Lino's stasis field got damaged. They get some weapons and whatnot. And then we go to Panthro in the flagship training room, trying to teach Lino how to fight with the Sword of Omens. Panthro is kind of their security officer. And Lino, of course, does a shit job because he is just young. Then we have Tigra. Now, the tiger in the cartoon series looked a lot younger. This tiger looks a lot older, and he is kind of exploring the landscape, trying to find food for them. Chitara kind of mocks him a little bit. And then we have Wily Cat and Wily Kit. They were young cubs who kind of grew up with Lino. They were his friends, but now he's still a kid, but he's in an older body. And Lino basically is getting pissed off that they're still treating him like he is a cub, even though he is a cub, just in an adult body. And he takes a sort of Omens, and he does his Thundercat call, which is cool, but it alerts the mutants, and Panthro is like, Lino's in trouble, because he only ever does that when he's in trouble. Then we go to the Desert of the Sinking Sands, where we get our first kind of glimpse of Mumra. Lino is attacked by the mutant Slythe, and the other Thundercats kind of come to his rescue. They have all their classic weapons from the cartoon series, which is cool. Tigra has his bolos and all that kind of stuff. And they fight with the mutants. Of course, winning, but in doing so, Lino tries to block Slythe's axe, and it shatters the Sword of Omens, which is a huge deal because the Sword of Omens is basically his main weapon. Now, shattering the Sword of Omens was the first instance where I went, okay, they are doing something new with this comic book. These mutants, they're basically pirates. They come from the planet Plundar. Haha, nice play on words. But this was the first time in the comic book that I'm literally going, what the fuck are they doing? And then we see here Mumra talking to Jaga. This is a big fucking deal. Jaga is literally the leader of the Thundercats. He was the one that got them off Thundera, put them into stasis, and got them to Third Earth. And Mumra knows who he is, and he knows who Mumra is. Now, I know the reason why this is a thing, based solely on the fact that I follow a lot of comic book channels, and there are some content creators who, they don't spoil the comic book, but they do go through it in detail. So I know the entire story. So I know why this is a thing. I didn't when I first read this, and it blew my mind. Those of you that are familiar with the 1985 to 89 Thundercats series, this was a huge deal for me. Now that I know the story, I get it, and it's great. Don't get me wrong. You will not be disappointed. But when I first read this, mind blown. Just crazy. Okay, then we move into book 2, where we see Lino is kind of having this nightmare, and he's woken up by Wily Kit and Wily Cat, and he gets a little pissed off at them, but they're like, whatever, doesn't really matter. So he takes the broken Sword of Omens, and he does his give me sight beyond sight thing. show me my fellow Thundercats. He wants to know what they are kind of doing. And we see Panthro, Tigra, and Chitara talking about the situation. They are actually in the wrecked mutant ship, and they are hoping to get some parts from it in order to fix their ship to get off of Third Earth. But they find instead another Thundercat, Calica. So it turns out that the mutants, led by, of course, Lord Slythe, had captured this fellow Thundercat and had kept her trapped. The mutants are marching through the desert, and they come to Mum-Ra's temple. One of the mutants falls in the sand, but they just kind of ignore him. Wily Kit and Wily Cat are just chatting away, trying to work out what the fuck is going on, when Chitara comes racing back with this new Thundercat. Now, this is a new character. This isn't a character that has been introduced in the cartoons or anything like that. This is actually a new Thundercat. Slythe, being the coward that he is, kind of flees after his people get sucked down in the sand, but he ends up fighting this beast, he says, for plunder, and ends up winning. The Thundercat, the new Thundercat, Calica, wakes up, and you can tell Lino's got a Jones for her. He's whatever, and Panthro is a bit hesitant as to whether or not she can be trusted, and she describes that she was on a farm. The mutants came, they killed her family, captured her, and she was tested on. And Panthro is still skeptical, which is his job. He is like the security guy, so that's cool. But Lino gets pissed off at him. Tigra manages to kind of separate them. And then we see Mum-Ra talking to Jaga, who he says has brought these Thundercats and these mutants to Third Earth in order to kind of feed him. Tigra and Chitara talk about Lino's reaction, and Chitara's like, you honestly can't see that he's in love with her? And Tigra kind of fades away, because that's one of his abilities. He can kind of turn himself invisible, which is kind of cool. Panthro, pissed off, goes off into the woods and just starts smacking trees. Whereas Lino talks to Calica, shows her the broken sword of Omens. She's a little nervous and upset because she's not royalty. And she hugs Lino. But then we get this. Lino comforting her. Her eyes glow red, the same as Mum-Ra. Is Calica a spy? And if so, how? Calica is patrolling around the ship. It's at night. She comes across Panthro. They have a discussion, and Panthro is like, I would prefer it if you weren't here. I'm busy trying to fix stuff. She runs into Lino kind of in the throne room. Lino has the hilt of the Sword of Omens. The blade is broken, giving him sight beyond sight. It opens a door, and inside this kind of chamber, are the lost treasures of Thundara. Mumra is trying to get information out of Jaga, and then Jaga turns into this fucking thing. And, he's ignoring Mumra, and then he turns into this hideous threat. Trust me, if you continue the story, it makes sense. Chitara heard this call from Lino and races to get the other Thundercats, and we find out that he is with Snarf. Okay, I'm just going to stop here because in the cartoons, Snarf was the most fucking annoying piece of shit that has ever been animated in a Saturday morning cartoon. He would just complain, basically. He would just complain and go, snarf, 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 snarf. It was infuriating. It really was infuriating. He was actually worse than T-Bob from the Mask animated series. I'm just going to lay that out there. If you disagree with me, please leave a comment down below and do all that other good stuff. We find out that Snarf has actually been guarding the treasures of Thundera for the Thundercats. He has a psychic link to Lino. Again, I don't think that was in the cartoon series. And he was put there just before Thundera kind of exploded. They don't want Calica going in and looking at the treasures, of course, but the other Thundercats go in there and they see all of these weapons and whatnot. And then we get Slythe being basically himself. He gets captured. The Thundercats argue, primarily Lino. Now, you got to understand that Lino arguing is basically a thing because he is just a kid in an adult's body. Panthro gets pissed off and basically punches him in the face, which, Lino is a noble. He's literally the king of the Thundercats, the ruler. And Chitara steps in and demands retribution, like this can't stand. And they basically have this one-on-one fight. It's Panthro versus Chitara. And, Panthro's the tactician, but Chitara's like the speedster. It's almost as if it's like if Batman was fighting the Flash, but the Flash was better. And Chitara basically knocks the shit out of Panthro. This is a fantastic fight. Well drawn. And Panthro realizes he was in the wrong. He apologizes to Lino. He should never have hit him in front of the other Thundercats. And Lino and Calica kind of have their moment. And then we find that Slythe has been captured by the Monkeans, the mutant masters of Third Earth. Yes, this was a thing, and I love every freaking moment of it. The art is phenomenal here. So Slythe has now been captured by the mutants on Third Earth. Now this should be a hint. This should be a hint at what Third Earth actually is. But my dumb brain did not pick up what the story is setting up. And I'm not going to give it to you little Plaguelandians. Either watch the video or go out and get the book and work it out for yourself, because it is worth it. Okay, we now move on to chapter 4, where Wily Cat is just annoying the shit out of Panthro, doing all of his stuff, where Lino goes up, he's talking to Tigra, basically trying to come to terms with what is going on, and we basically get the Monkians and Slythe is trying to get away. The Thundercat ship, which is basically their fortress at this point, comes under attack from all of these dead mutants, which is courtesy of Mumra, of course. And they all band together and they all fight, and this is awesome freaking fight scene. And Mumra is basically trying to taunt them. It's just a fantastic kind of sequence. Lino confronts Mumra, the ever-living. Mumra must be one of the best villains from an 80s cartoon ever, when he's old and decrepit in his red robes and then he turns into Mumra, the ever-living. It's so fucking cool. They fight. Snarf is guarding the treasure chamber. He realizes something is wrong. Panthro, knowing that they probably can't win this fight, brings out the Thunder Tank. I mean, if I had this toy as a kid, Jesus, what is wrong with me? If I had this toy as a kid, oh, it would have been freaking awesome. They win the battle thanks to Panthro. They go back and Snarf is unconscious, and he says Calica used this mind technique on me to knock me out. They realize that Calica is in fact a spy, and Lino feels so fucking stupid for letting her in and basically trusting her and whatnot. Mumra is basically doing his thing with the mutants and Calica, and we find that there is the Book of Omens not hidden, but kind of covered in the dust on Third Earth. Now, at this point in the story, I was wondering, where the fuck are they going with this? And when I found out, because I can't wait for all of these things to come out one after the other, I needed to know what the rest of the story was. And how it ties in with the Silverhawks. These people are freaking geniuses. If you're a fan of 80s shit, 80s cartoon stuff, and they're crossing over, I mean, they've already done Transformers and G.I. Joe in like the Energon universe. And they're now crossing over Thundercats and Silverhawks, and the way they do it, it makes sense. It's not like that comic book I reviewed where it was a crossover between Back to the Future and Transformers, which, don't get me wrong, was awesome. This just makes sense so that all of our childhood memories of watching these Saturday morning cartoons, after school cartoons, whatever, it puts them all together like we used to do when we were playing with these toys. I cannot praise it enough. I absolutely love this stuff. And yes, I'm a fanboy. I don't care. So, the Book of Omens is setting up a really intriguing story. But I'm not going to spoil it. I will spoil it on the channel when I get the books and whatnot, but I'm not going to spoil it now. I know what happens. I know what the point is. But there you have it. Then we move into book 5. This is basically Chitara taking Lino out into the wilderness after he got punched by Panthro. She was saying he had no right to do that. By the same token, you really don't have a right to lead, so I'm going to train you. And she does. She basically smacks the living shit out of him until he learns the lesson that she's trying to teach. And we get Lino's views on all of the Thundercats, with these beautiful splash pages of Chitara, Panthro, Tigra, Wily Kit, Wily Cats, and it basically culminates in this amazing, it's not a fight scene, it's Lino talking about the relationship the Thundercats have, and Chitara says, now you're ready to basically learn. And he realizes he's got this inner power in him as a Thundercat, and he has to use his instincts, which he does, and finally scores a hit on Chitara. And it's just a beautifully illustrated fight scene. And she tells him, how did you do it? He says, I anticipated where you were going to be based on what you did. He was using his instincts. And she's like, that's the way it's done. And they go back. And that is the end of this 5-issue graphic novel. We also get some cover galleries. And holy shit, are these covers awesome. I mean, look at that. An action figure cover. It's just all these variants. I know a lot of people don't like the variant covers, or they chase the variant covers down. Mumra, the Ever Living. It's just a wonderfully told reimagining. And then we have this written by Sue Lee. It's just a wonderfully told reimagining of the Thundercats. And I, for one, appreciate this. I thought this was a fantastic book. I commend the writers. I commend the artists. There was nothing about this that I did not like. And I know I say that for a lot of things, but you know what? I don't care in this point. This Thundercats was part of my childhood. It was so long ago. And I still love it to this day. So there you have my review of Thundercats Volume 1, Omens. They tweaked the story enough that it's original. They didn't skew too far off from the original 80s cartoon series. There's not much more I can say. So if you enjoyed the video, like, subscribe, leave a comment, do all that good stuff. But most important of all, please, my little Plaguelandian friends out there, do yourself a favor. Doesn't matter if it's a novel, if it's a graphic novel, if it's a comic, if it's an audio book. Go out there and read or listen to a fucking book, people.